Welcome back, everyone. After that insightful session on insurance sector and our use of RPA within the insurance sector from Bajaj Alliance, now we move on to something more detailed and highlights on the fintech sector. Now, I would like to welcome our next speaker, who's an expert on fintech. He's the director of fintech at SP Jain School of Global Management, and he also heads research at fintech-focused VC fund Verenium NextGen. He was awarded as a CA Educator of the Year by Honorable Minister Shri Nitin Gadkari and CA Business Leader 40 Under 40 by CNBC TV 18. Vikram has authored several white papers, research report, and articles on fintech domain. He has an extensive experience in banking, financial services, fintech, consultancy, and training domain. He is the founder and director of Association for Emerging Technologies, which is a non-for-profit ecosystem initiative from Vikram. He is associated as a mentor to various fintech startups across the globe. He's also a fintech ambassador for Maharashtra government's Uday Fintech platform and part of the advisory committee for various state governments. He's one of the founding members of the startup committee at ICAI. He has been uh, successful in as a banker for more than a decade, where he has made key contributions in financial and investment strategy, business intelligence, balance sheet, and business development and technology solutions. He has been a visiting faculty at various prestigious global institutes. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Vikram Pandya, who is here with us today, who's taken time off from his busy schedule to share his expert opinions and insights on RPA within the finance sector. A very warm welcome to you, Vikram. I leave the stage to you to take it over from here and engage with the audience and share your expert opinions and guidelines for the global audience here.
Thanks. And as already given on the message, you can ask your question anytime. And whenever I am finishing one section logically, I will allow you to then ask more questions and you can ask during that time as well. And whenever you want to have any other questions, you can always post it. Let's start with today's topic, which we are covering around generative AI and RPA, right, and how it works. You guys have known about how the large language models are working. You have ChatGPT, Gemini, all these new models which are there, how really they work. But ultimately, when we talk about RPA, RPA is part and parcel of what we call as a digital transformation. Now, this digital transformation journey typically takes very long time, as you know. But RPA plus generative AI can change that game, and the entire journey that you take, typically, which may take 6 months or 1 year, can get reduced to maybe few weeks or few months. Right? And the power of generative AI is such that today people who are not knowing how to program, how to automate, they can also participate and go ahead and automate certain things without any code. And low code, no code tools are not new to the ecosystem, but at the same point in time, the way in which you can interact with them is becoming more and more natural and intuitive enough. So we will today look at how you can create your journey in RPA using generative AI. Also, how to identify what to automate, right? And when to automate, those things we will cover. Begin with the first and foremost area that everyone should know is you need to know how your processes are working today in order to automate anything. Right? Typically, process starts like, okay, you have a process mapping. And after process mapping, you do process mining. Now, these are the two terms that you need to understand step by step. What is the process mapping and what is the process mining? Process mapping is nothing but a way in which you can create a diagram of how your process works, who are the involved people or tools or systems which are there, and how long does it take, right? So time. Process mining is one step further, where you are able to process on a real-time basis or on a daily basis what are the blockages, hindrances, bottlenecks in your processes, and then after identifying them, you can automate certain things to remove those hindrances. So let us look at a real-world scenario. You have this tool called the Celonis process mining tool, which is one of the leading providers in the world. There are few other tools like Minet. These are what we call as a process mining tool. So if I were to look at process analytics within that, and within process analytics, if you look at the general things that we are all aware about, right? So we have multiple different options. You have order to cash, purchase to pay. We will go to accounts payable, which is most commonly used by most of the industries today. And within that, when we look at, you have overall 238,000 cases. This is a period for which you are analyzing this, let's say 3-month period, 6-month period, and you have 238,000 cases which are uploaded in this. Now, what are these cases and how can you create this as a log to begin with? Something you need to import for this. By default, your SAP log or some other ERP logs that you create, those logs are consumed by this tool and those logs are useful for analytics. Or if you don't have any logs or system available, if you are doing everything manually, then also you can use something which we call as a steps recorder. And this steps recorder, you can use to record your steps. Let's say I click this, I go here, I type something, I go back to this, I click here, and I come back here and I break something like this. So whatever I did, you can see all the steps are recorded. Step 1 with the time stamp available, username also available, and like that, all the screenshots and steps are recorded. Now, what is required for this tool for you to import is that you require minimum 3 columns. What are these 3 columns? So you have timestamp, in fact, 4 columns, date timestamp, end date, time, activity, ID, name, and user. So you require these 4 columns, and based on these 4 columns, you can create some analytics like this. Now, what is this analytics that you can see? So let's assume as a process, we have planned that accounts payable will work like this, where you have a process start, then vendor creates an invoice, then scans the invoice. So you receive the invoice and you scan the invoice, and then it gets entered in SAP. You book the invoice, make the payment, due date is achieved, and then after due date is arrived, you are clearing everything and processing. This is a typical accounts payable process which you can see. So this is the most common variant, and as you can see, the most common variant is taking 24.6 days in general or on an average to process this entire accounts payable. This is the most common variant, and this most common variant is currently covering 54% of the cases. If I were to cover top 3 variants, you can see the moment I cover top 3 variants, it is now covering 92%, but then I have certain variations in the process. One of the variations is that where 37,000 cases are undergoing cancellation. Then 51,000 cases are undergoing change in the baseline rate. And because of that, you are deviating from the standard process, and this is what we call as a process deviation. And it might be genuine in nature, it might be something you never planned, but now it is a reality. So you need to take this into account, right? Let's assume you decide I want to cover 98% or 95% plus cases. You can always increase coverage, and by looking at this, you can see there is another variation now. Due date passed, and now you are able to cover 96% of your cases by just covering top 4 variations. Why this is required? So now scientifically you can identify which variation to automate first, because while you have so many different variations, it might be possible that you can first focus on the top variant. Top variant is covering 54%. So you are covering majority of your cases. Then second variation, you are covering 21% of your cases there. So majority 75% plus cases you are able to cover by just covering variation 1 and 2. By doing so, you are reducing your implementation cost, because whenever you are using AI, whether generative or otherwise, right, any sort of AI automation that you use, you are able to then reduce your overall cost. Not only that, there is another advantage that you are able to achieve, and that advantage is that you can prove scientifically why you are undertaking that process, and internally there will not be any conflict. Somebody cannot say, no, my process should come first. No, your process is not automated first, because scientifically I have identified that process or variant number 1 is the most common variant. If I automate this, it covers 54% of the cases, and because of that, my ROI is much, much better. Okay. Just imagine somebody saying, I want to cover 100% of the cases. The moment you do it, you end up in chaos. Look at the entire chaotic way in which some of the very small exceptional variations are there. So if you look at these variations, less than 1% of your cases are covered under that, but there are 1,456 cases where it is all over the place. Right? Something is not working well, and because of that, you are trying to fix it, but it is only covering less than 1% of your cases, so you are wasting your time. So this is what we call as a process mining. Now, generative AI can help you even in identifying this in a no-code manner, or even if you don't know what to do, you can still do it. Right? So there is a business miner option, and within business miner, you will get an option to type questions, right? Like this: how long does your process take? So you can create another exploration and ask any questions that you want. But in this free version, you can ask certain limited number of questions. So this becomes NLP, generative AI, where you are asking certain questions, and based on NLP plus NLG, it is generating the answer. So my question, how long does your process take? It is analyzing everything, and it is telling me that, look, this is the dashboard. After analyzing your processes real-time basis based on the question that you have asked, and this is the entire analysis that you can see. Right? So this gives you an insight without even knowing. You can see explore more questions, and you can always ask more number of questions based on whatever is your exploration criteria. So with this, we have covered what is process mapping, what is process mining, and how to use that, right, in general with some tools. Generative AI becomes very useful when you want to interact in an intuitive manner and in simplest possible manner, because you don't want to program anything, you don't want to write queries. You can write a simple English question and it will answer. Any questions, anyone up to this point? If you have, feel free to ask on the Q&A. If not, we will move on to the next point, which is how other use cases are being used in generative AI, and how generative AI can then help you further in automating this end-to-end. So once you identify that I want to automate this process variant, this is the top process that I have, and I want to automate that process. What is the next step? So there are a couple of ways in which you can automate. One is to use RPA tools like Automation Anywhere, or you use any other tools. There are many tools in the market, as you know. So you use one of them. Or you decide that I will build it in-house. With the power of AI, today you can automate certain things without any RPA tool. Earlier, we used to do macros in Excel, Word, PowerPoint, whatever. So we were creating macros in Microsoft Office applications. But the same thing you can now do by using generative AI and create certain scripts which user can themselves use by implementing it on their computer. So if you want to automate something like you want to rename thousands of files, So just renaming thousands of files. So you can create a simple tool by asking ChatGPT or any other AI tool, and then you can use that script within your Windows, right? Create a VB script. Or you can create a Python notebook and you can run that on your computer. So that becomes the simplest way in which you can start your journey. But on the other spectrum, when we are talking about complicated and complex tasks, where this task will be using multiple different computers, multiple different departments, data. So how do you ensure that those things are also covered within your use case? Now, as you know, for automating anything, today you require what we call as a APIs. So you require API integration. Now this API integration is very useful because you can now standardize your implementation process and you can integrate one tool with the other tool. So let's look at how you can achieve that. So there are no code tools available which can help you with the API integration if you know what you are trying to do. So for instance, you have Superface, one of the platforms. If you look at without generative AI, we are aware about platforms like Zapier. Now, this is not something a new platform at all. This is like old platform. But this platform allows you to do no code API integration with two or more platforms. How platforms like Superface can be more useful because you are able to write in a natural language what you want to achieve. And unlike Zapier, where you need to drag and drop and create everything on your own, where you are saying that, okay, if this, then this, right? If this trigger event happens, then you will do this. So let's assume you want to say, when the email comes on Gmail with this subject line, reply with this. Now, earlier, what used to happen? Reply with this is the part where you need to mention some sort of template and you need to automate that part with some script. Today with generative AI, you are able to say, when I receive email with this subject or with this keywords, then generate this email on your own with the keywords that I'm telling you. So I will write a prompt. Now, what is a prompt? We'll come to that. But I will write a prompt, and that prompt is nothing but a simple English language instructions like what you can see on your screen. And based on that, AI will generate that email, and that email will be used for sending to the client. So I'm not doing anything manually. Everything is automated. I'm just going to, even if I want, I can have an option to authorize that email. Otherwise, that email will automatically get created and it will be stored in my draft inbox. Any questions, anyone up to this point? Let's see. Okay, no questions so far. So let's continue. So coming back to the next part. So one thing is that you can use platform like this where you can create your AI agents which can use APIs as a part of their skill. So you have one AI agent which may require Google search. So Google search becomes a skill. And to provide that skill, you will need to integrate with API, Google search API. Right? So you can do that without any code. You just need to follow the instructions which are provided. You provide those API keys and rest of the stuff will be handled like that. Sometimes APIs are not available. Sometimes API needs to be created. Now, thanks to certain applications like, let's say, Replicate, you have another application called ShitLabs. Now, all these applications which are available, which allows you to create API or use certain models as API. You can convert any of the existing models into API and host it on your own on the cloud that you choose. And based on that, it will be made available to you. So for example, this is one model. Then this is another model and you can start running it. This is the example model. So if I were to explore all the models, you will see what all are the models available. So my shell open voice. This is one new model which is available. And this allows you to clone your voice. Okay. So this becomes available. If you really want to clone your voice without any APIs, then you can use tools like 11 Labs. But then you are paying much more. But if you are providing this as a business service, then it makes sense to create your own service in API terms, and this will be more useful. If you are a user or a customer, then it makes sense for you to just go ahead and create account with 11 Labs and use that. But when you are a business provider, service provider, it makes sense to host on your own. Similar to that, you have so many different platforms, right? Like you have Meta Llama. These are the image generators. This is audio text to speech or speech to text, basically in this. You have like that many more models. So you can convert them into API, which means that when you are trying to automate using generative AI, let's assume I want to create a call center AI, which can automate the entire end-to-end call center process, right from when somebody is receiving call to the resolution of that query. How can I approach that question? So the problem statement is very complicated because I may not know all the different types of questions that they are asking. But whenever they're asking certain questions, I will have my knowledge base. So I need to do what we call as embedding. And embedding will allow you to consume the data. Embedding will allow you to consume the knowledge base that you have created, and AI will only answer from that knowledge base. So once you create that knowledge base, you can ensure that the data only comes from that. Great. But once you do that, and once you are opening it up, and people can upload multiple different documents. So you need to identify and re-rank the response, which document is most relevant out of 10 documents. Because when I upload income tax updates, it is possible that the past update may also get fetched. Right? So you need to identify which update should I cover, how to weight it, right? What kind of weight you need to provide. So when I am trying to create a new chatbot, and that chatbot can give me updates about income tax. I can ask that, okay, I have income of this, salary of this is my form 16. Why don't you calculate my tax? But in order to do that, it should be having access to latest data set. Unfortunately, if you have uploaded all the data point right from the beginning, right, then AI will find it very difficult to look at and choose the model or choose the data. Instead of that, what you can do, you can say, look, automatically I'm re-ranking it based on the time, date, and relevance to my query. And when you do that, you are able to get the best possible response. Got it? Now, another thing is that you provide one set of instructions, and then AI can run those set of instructions on multiple files. That is what we call as a automated document processor. Now, this is becoming very popular today. None of the RPA tools which were available earlier can handle multiple different file types, different formats, different way in which you are structuring your data. So old RPA tools, you had to provide lot many rules and many more variations in which you want to process that document. Thanks to generative AI, you are able to process any type of document, any format of document. And to give you a simple example, let's say this is what we use at SPGen for teaching our student, and this is what we call as AI Duverse. Now this AI Duverse has this multiple modules, and one of the modules is automated document processing. So if I were to go within this, and if I sign into this, you can see here that we can use this. This context is nothing but the set of instructions that you need to provide to AI. And we are saying you are helpful assistant. You will evaluate the exam and give the detailed feedback. You will not give the marks, right? That is already written in this. I don't want mark, but I don't want to. I want you to provide feedback on the oral paper written by the student. Let's assume. So feedback is generated by AI, but here you can upload your instruction set. This can be a Word or PDF file in any format, any kind of questions. It can be MCQ, it can be case study driven, anything. And here you can upload your multiple answer files. And then automatically based on the instructions, it will give you the summary outcome of where the students have made mistakes, what kind of improvement can be done. Another example, by changing this context or prompt as we call it, I can create another use case where let's assume at the end of the year, I want to process all my Uber receipts. I want to process all my Uber receipts. Unfortunately, if I want to do it manually, and if I have 500, 600 Uber receipts in a year, it becomes very tedious task. I need to open the PDF file. I need to look at from, to, etc. If they have changed the format in between, I need to again go to RPA and tell RPA that, okay, now the format is changing in between, and it becomes cumbersome. But with power of AI, I can simply tell this that, okay, I want you to summarize this receipt in this format, and I will upload. I don't need to upload instruction set because I'm typing it here, everything. And then I can upload my 500, 600 Uber receipts. And when I click evaluate, it will generate the output file where the entire thing is processed in a simple manner. So this becomes very powerful tool. You can upload your n number of Uber receipts, and then it will be getting processed automatically. Any questions, anyone up to this point in time? Feel free to ask. Okay. So we have around 20 minutes available with us. So I want to ensure, yes.
Vikram, can you see the Q&A tab on your screen? If maybe I think because you're full screen.
I can only see broadcast to all somehow. I can only
Okay,
see one.
okay. There were a couple of questions, so maybe I can ask them to you. One of the question was, while selecting variations in process mining, when two cases are nearby, case in point one or the first variant is 30% of the total cases, and second variant is 25% of the total cases. But shouldn't we go for the automation for second variant if it's internal processes, which are more tough and cumbersome, assuming few steps are extra in the second variant?
No, good point. Look, why you need to look at this from the perspective of most common variant first, right? Let me go back to that diagram. Okay, so let's assume that we go back to accounts payable. So let's take this example. When you say I will go with this 2, here what you are talking about is just the incremental difference. Don't consider that when you are doing 2, you are doing everything that way. Right? If you think that way, yes, then you are saying I will do 1 and 2. So the difference between what you are saying and what I am saying is that, let's say you selected these 2 variants and you want to automate this 2 variant, which means that you are doing first and second both, correct? Then only you are able to create first variant also, and then second variant is this difference. So you are saying whether you will be including this variation or not. Everything else is common, which means fine, 80-90% process is same. But will you take this also into account when you are automating it, right? It might be possible that if you take this, your cost is going up by 20%. So you need to decide, should I look at it right now, or should I start with this first and then I go ahead and do this as well? You say, okay, 20% I can take, so I will implement this. But then there is a variation 3. Now this third variation is 37,000 cases. And within this, you want to decide again whether it makes sense to cover this additional 16% cases where the cost may go up additionally by 30%. Let's assume. If the cost is going up by 1%, 2%, no brainer, automatic. If cost is going up by up to 10%, again, you can consider. But if the cost is going up by 20, 30, 40%, maybe you don't want to do it. I hope you understood the difference, right? So when you say, why don't we directly do variation 3? It means that you will do this variations, correct? But of course, you will go through the first most common variation as well. It is not like that you will decide, okay, I will go through second only. No, you will go through most common, and then you decide incrementally, should I do this variation or not? I hope that answers your question. Any other question, anyone?
There was one more question. Quality aspect of generative AI content, email, and voice recording tools is still very underwhelming and lacks creativity, and it is very mechanical. So how will GenAI improve on these apart from the large sample study points that it already has?
Very good question. So the problem statement typically is that how can we make it sound like what we were writing or how we are writing it. That is number one. So we want it to use our brand, tone, voice, whatever. Another thing is that we want to make it more diverse so that it is not becoming a template version, right? It should be more personalized. Now, the beauty of this generative AI model today is that you can fine tune these models with your data. So I will give you a very simple example and it will be helpful for you to understand. So same example that I was giving about SPG and Eduverse. So this is the mail which is generated to send it out to all the alumni, okay? Or even the new student who are joining. Right? So this is, let's say, a message which is written. Now this message or this email which is written is not personalized email. So if I want to personalize this email, what I need to do is that I need to use that automated document processor where I give this email and I tell that, okay, now change this email in a personalized tone or personalized manner by looking at this CV of the person and the program that that person is applying for. So I'm giving three inputs. One is the simple email, which is a common boilerplate email. Second thing I'm giving is the CV or resume of the student and the program for which that student is applying. So when I gave my CV and you can see the custom email, look at the difference, right? This is automatically generated without any modification by any human being. Dear Vikram Pandya, now the program, whatever I have written is mentioned within this, and how the AI Eduverse initiative will be useful for what I am trying to achieve, right? Instead of the same message which you can see here, immerse yourself in interactive learning. Instead of that, it is saying use this to craft personalized experiences in your doctoral research, utilizing AI personalized creature that mirror your commitment to discovery, whatever. So you can see that the tone, whatever you want, you can customize it further. Not only that, as I said, if you want to completely change the way it works and you want to provide more examples, right? If you have more than 200, 500 examples of how you want it to behave, it is better to fine tune the model. And model fine tuning today is very much affordable and practical. Let's say OpenAI model you want to fine tune. You go to platform.openai.com. You can see fine tuning here as an option. You upload a new fine tuning job where you will say, if this is the user input, this should be output. Right? So you have input and output columns, 2 columns only, and you upload that, it will learn on its own. So by doing that, you are able to provide that context. How do you want it to behave? That is the benefit that you have. So hope that also answers your question. So I can see now those 2 questions are answered. One is okay. So no new questions now. Let us continue. The next point that I want to make is how you can use model router in RPA when you are automating something. How can you use model router to minimize your cost? Because when you are doing automation, writing email may be less complex task than maybe writing a code. Similar to that, when we are generating image, for that you may require different model. Writing code may require different model. Writing text may require different model. Speech to text may require other model. So what you can do based on the task at your hand, what you want to achieve, you can route that query to a respective model. That's what we call typically as a multi-model LLM. But today you have other options available where by understanding the intent, you can use routers like Open Router, where it can allow you to use cheaper LLM for simple tasks. For example, you have this LLMs available under this model. So let me just show you in a summarized format. Okay, so here we go. You have all these different models. Some of them are free to use, and some of them are paid. For example, Google Gemma is paid. Sorry, not this one. You have Meta's Llama 3. But it is open source model. They are hosting, so it is paid model. But cost is very, very minimal, right? You can see the cost is hardly anything. And if I go to other models like Mixtral, Meta, OpenAI, All these are the paid models. You can see GPT-4, $0.01, GPT-4, $0.03. And when you look at this, this is the input cost and this is the output cost. Okay? Inference of the prompt and inference of the output that it is giving. So you can easily identify if somebody is asking a simple question like, what is the date today? So you know that if you are passing on date through API, any of this language model, to be frank, can give you that answer correctly. You don't require very complicated, sophisticated model for that. Correct? So this becomes very useful for you. However, when we are looking at some complicated task, like you want to generate case study, then the base model may not work, right? Like all this simpler model may not work. You require more complicated model with more number of parameters. So here you can see that the number of parameters you are having is 70 billion, right? For example, OpenAI models have parameters in 175 billion for GPT 3.5. I think it was more than trillion for GPT 4. So you can always look at more complicated, complex model for complex tasks where the cost is also more. So if you are able to route your task based on the complexity, your cost will go down. And thankfully, these guys have created this sort of option where there is an option called auto. Okay, auto, based for prompt. So if you use this model name auto, it will automate based on the prompt which model to select. Okay, and based on that model, your cost will be minimized. So let's assume if the model says, or this auto model says that the prompt is simpler and it can be done with this Mixtral 7B instruct. So you don't pay anything for that. But if the model decides it is complicated and it will require OpenAI GPT-4, then you will pay whatever is the cost. But you are still able to minimize your cost. Okay. So when you are doing automation RPA, these language models can be selected dynamically based on the complexity of your prompt. Then coming back to creating what we call as a agentic AI. Now RPA is nothing but robotic process automation, as you know. But RPA with agentic AI or agent-based processing. This is something new, relatively new in the arena. Now, there are players who are providing this tool. For instance, you have Relevance AI, Build Your AI Workforce. To give you a simple demo here. Let's say you want to do research. And this is more suitable for a task where you require AI to generate text, AI to do research for you. So I have created this 3 different agents. Let us look at this researcher Rachel. So this is already run once. So you can see summary, AI in fintech, phrase, AI transforming the financial technology. And it has done the research by automatically calling the tools that you require. Right? So Google search, again Google search, and then based on that, it has given the output. Let's say if I want to run again, I will run new task. I want you to create a search on okay. So when you give this, again, this task will start. Now it is first understanding what is required, and based on that, it is starting. You can see it is starting with this, and you are saying, okay, looking forward for detailed thing. And you can even automate this, by the way. I am putting this human in the loop approach where I can see what kind of analysis that you want, right? So when I click this, we will continue. It has research tool available. So here you should not be even giving this. It should happen automatically, and it has done that. In fact, you can even automate it further to have a link of multiple agents one after the other. Now, what they have done is effectively they are linking multiple agents together with multiple skill set. And if I were to create a new agent, it will be better for you to look at new agents. Let's say I want to create a new agent. Look at the way in which you can provide new skills, provide new capabilities. Let's say blank agent I want to create, start from scratch, enter agent's name, give your agent powers. I can add multiple tools. And what are these tools available? Extract data from PDF, knowledge retrieval, Google search, website scraping, generate opening email, ask internet, GPT on my website, enrich LinkedIn profile. So if I want to get data from LinkedIn for somebody's profile, I can just give LinkedIn URL and it will fetch data from LinkedIn. So I can create an agent which will only get data from LinkedIn. I can create another agent which will then look at the data, generate email. Or I can create single agent with multiple different skills and I can use single agent for multiple skills. Right? So for this example, I can say, okay, add this skill. Then I will say generating opening email or even email in general. You will find that. Improve your copy, paste from work, review legal documents, analyze text. Also edit beyond this PDF file, Google search. So based on this, I have created my agent. Okay. You can even schedule the run time. Right now, I have not gone for the paid plan, but you can schedule every day. This should run on this time. And based on this, you can even create a flow chart saying that, okay, this should work like this. So agent based on the LinkedIn profile URL given, the agent should read the profile and draft mail to sell the product. And let's say this product is let's say this is the product. We can even write it down saying that okay. So I have provided base instructions. And if I want to create a workflow also, I can create a workflow. You can provide welcome message. You can even put specific task. What is the timeout period? Whatever you want, you can provide. And based on that, I can create a new agent. So if I give a new task, let's say I give my own LinkedIn URL. I want this URL. Somebody who is there. I will just type this without anything. I will just copy paste this. Let's see what happens. Based on the agent description that we have provided, it should be able to figure it. So enrich LinkedIn profile. So it has used this. So I can approve this. You can also automate it saying that I don't want to provide approval. It will run on its own. You can see LinkedIn outreach is thinking. Now, based on that, it has drafted. Dear Siva Keshwar, hope this email finds you well. I can approach a LinkedIn profile. Have you ever heard of this? You can see the complete email is drafted. with multiple different variations. Got it? So this becomes very powerful way in which you can use RPA with agentic AI. You are saying one agent will do this, another agent will do that. That is how you can process. Okay. Any questions, anyone? I think we have run out of time in a way, but if you have any questions, more than happy to answer. This thing can
Thank you so much
for multiple hours. We have covered most of the things that we wanted to cover. Let me stop sharing my screen. Yes, thanks, Imran.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Vikram, for that insightful presentation. I think a lot of questions that were, are answered in your presentation already. I think that's one of the reasons we don't have live questions, any more live questions. But great use cases of generative AI and RPA. Thank you so much for that insight. I'm sure there's so much to learn about it. So here's what I recommend for our audience who will be watching this video at a later stage. Please get in touch with Vikram, enroll for the course that SP Jain is offering specifically for RPA. From what you have seen just now, this is just a trailer, a short video of what is there within the RPA universe, within the GenAI universe. So you can get more knowledge, you can get more understanding of how it works and use it in your daily routine, in your career, in your work, in your organization. So thank you so much, Vikram, for sharing that with us and with our global audience. It was really insightful. I thank you again for your time that you shared with us today. And I look forward to working with you again. I look forward to seeing you again and meeting you again. Now, for the audience who are with us, please join us again after a short 5 minutes break when we have a speaker from Turkey, from one of the leading banks from Turkey, who will be sharing their journey of RPA implementation within their organization. Thank you again, Vikram. I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thanks. Thanks, man.
Thanks. Bye.